Hello everybody and welcome on in here to our user group webinar. My name is Jim and I'm coming to you live on a rainy day here in Columbus, Ohio. We're going to be talking today about correcting donations, gifts that you enter into the donations module in Church Windows version 18.15.3. On your screen, you are going to have a GoToWebinar control panel that you have access to. There is going to be a red button on that control panel that is going to allow you to either minimize or maximize that screen. When you minimize the control panel, you'll have access to a little more room on your monitor there to see the topics that we'll be covering here today. Maximizing it will give you access to your control panel, which has a little questions section in it there. You can type in any questions as we go through our webinar here today. I probably won't be able to get a look at those questions until after the webinar is complete. Please try to keep your questions limited to the topic at hand today, which again is going to be correcting donations in the Church Windows program. I do want to point out that we do record all of these webinars and we publish them on our YouTube page once a week. I believe on Thursday or so is when we publish our videos. If you go out to youtube.com, youtube.com/Church Windows, all one word. That is where you'll see all of our webinars that we record and upload out to YouTube. So within a week, this very webinar we're doing here today, as well as all of our other recorded webinars can be found on that page. Again, that's youtube.com/Church Windows. Very good. So let's go ahead and get started here today. I'm going to go ahead and launch our donations module first. Okay, so here we are. There are basically just two things that I want to cover in terms of correcting donations here in our program. The first is if you made an error on a single gift, whether that is you posted a gift to the wrong giving account, whether you posted that gift with the wrong date or with the wrong amount. Correcting a single gift is done on your browse window, which is located on the donations tab right here in the upper left-hand corner, that big browse button right there. That's where you go to correct a single gift. So let's go ahead and open that up and talk about how to use that window. By default, when you first come into this screen, you'll be looking at all of the gifts in your current donations year. And you'll actually see that date range in the upper left-hand corner of that screen. It'll say Browse Donations and it'll have your date range there. So we run our data here in with our training data in Church Windows for a calendar year. So it's January through December of 2016. Making changes to the date range. The other thing I want to point out is that this is by default. It's going to be all of your donations within that date range. Okay, so if you want to change the range of the dates, or whether you want to filter the gifts that you see on your screen in other ways, you can go to your Change Dates, Filter, and Sort button in the upper left-hand corner. That's this big button right here. So clicking on that takes you to your donation browser options window here. You'll note that there's date occurred is listed right here, so that allows you to kind of limit the grid to a particular date range if there's a particular date that you're looking for. It also lets you limit by any number of things. If you, for example, you know the amount of the gift, you can filter it using amount, etc., etc. There's a bunch of different ways you can filter this on here. There are, so, that is, for the most part, one of the easier ways to kind of filter the way your grid appears. There are some other tricks that I always like to show folks how to use on this screen. Since I'm the one teaching this, I'm going to show you guys my favorite way to track down a particular gift on this screen. You're going to notice there's going to be a series of columns along the top of your screen here, transaction number, account, that go along the top of your screen. You're also going to see this gray area at the top of the window here. And if there's a box up in here, that means that your grid is grouped by that field. What that means is that we see the giver box here listed, so you're going to see that this grid is grouped by giver. So you'll see Lucy Agler, and if you click on the little plus next to her name, it will expand and show you the individual gifts for that person. You can group this grid by date as well if you wanted to, if there's a particular date that you are looking for. And you can do that by grabbing the field called donation date and dragging that up into your box up here. I'm going to get giver out of here and put it back down here on my column headers. Notice now it says donation date is the way it is grouped. So now you'll see those different donation dates listed here. Clicking on the plus there will show all of the gifts within that date. So that's my favorite way to kind of find things on here. So if you know a particular date for a gift that you want to correct, you can find that in that way very easily. So let's say we want to correct this particular gift here. You select a gift on this grid, and then depending upon what you need to change about it, you'll click either on the correct button at the top right here, if you need to change the amount of the gift or if you need to change the giving account, or you can use the reverse and NSF button if you need to get rid of it entirely. So using the correct button up here, so I'm going to select this gift from Keith Armstrong, $75 check. I'm going to use my correct button. That takes us to this correct donation window here. Any changes that you need to make to that gift can occur right here. So let's say, for example, that you recorded it as a $75 check, but it was actually a $45 check. There's an amount box up here at the top where you can make that correction. $45. If I hit my tab key on my keyboard, you'll see that that locks that amount in. I do want to point out, though, that there is a breakdown listed below here for how much is given to each particular giving account. So if I change the amount up top to $45, I will also need to correct this down here below and let it know that there's $45 that were given to that general fund. Okay, so once those match on here, you've got a couple of different options. You can click on your Save Donation button here to make that change here in the Donations module. And if you wish to transfer that change over to the Accounting module as well, you can click the Save and Transfer button. Which one of those you select kind of depends on, what you need to get done. A lot of organizations have treasurers that are basically in charge of the accounting module. If that's the case, you would click your Save Donation button and then let your treasurer know that you had to make a correction, and then they can do whatever is appropriate over there in the accounting module. And usually that's the way that that happens. So making a change on here, and again, this could be any number of changes that you make on here. It could be the date of the gift. Up here at the top, it could be the date of the gift. It could be the check number. You can change the giving account that it is recorded to simply by clicking in the box for the giving account, and you can correct the giving account here as well. Okay, so any of these things you can change. Once you've got it how you need it to be, you click your Save Donation button. It's going to give you a message that usually it has to reverse the original transaction and post a correcting transaction. It'll tell you the original transaction number and the new transaction number listed here. So when I click OK, it makes that change. If I come back down to 5:15 again, you'll now see giver number 29, Keith Armstrong. You'll see your new transaction number listed over here, transaction 2001. You'll see it is now $45 listed right there. If you want to, I did mention that it did post a correcting transaction. It doesn't display that by default on this screen, but there's a checkbox in the lower left-hand corner, include reversed transaction. So if I put a check mark in that box, listed in red on your grid is going to be the original gift, which is this one here, this line right here, for $75. And then you'll see the correcting transaction for negative $75 listed here. Okay, so that's correcting an individual gift on here. You can also reverse a gift on here as well. Let's say I'll select Bill Smith's gift of $25. Well, let me make sure I do a check. Byron Arnold's $75 check here. You can also reverse a transaction by using the reverse and NSF button at the top here. So there's a couple of things that you can take a look at here on this reverse donation window. It's going to go to the recommended tab by default. So this is how we recommend you handle this transaction. It's going to reverse it as of the date of the original transaction. This basically makes it so that the original gift was never in your system. There's no point in time where that gift exists in donations. You can, when you correct a transaction, you can post a comment in here and it'll record that comment to the reversal on your screen. And you can also mark it as reversed due to non-sufficient funds. The NSF, non-sufficient funds, is just a checkbox that will display for a particular gift. So if you're looking at your reversals, you can see a little checkbox for NSF. So if I mark this as an NSF transaction and I click OK, it is going to permanently reverse that gift. And again, I need to go back down to that date. There's the original gift of $75, and here is our reversal right here. The checkbox that I was talking about here under donation browser options, if I come over here to columns, there's a column that you can include for non-sufficient funds. And I'll add that to my list here next to check number. And you'll see that column. Oh, I'm listing over here. So you'll see that original gift was an NSF using that checkbox there. Okay, so that is correcting or reversing a single gift that was entered improperly into the donations module. The other situation that you can address here is if, let's say, for example, you posted a batch, an entire batch improperly. Now, the most common situation around this is that you posted it with the incorrect date. And you need to correct that entire batch and post it to the proper date. It also could be you recorded it with the wrong batch code or something along those lines. But the point is, it's an entire batch that you need to correct the entire thing. That is done here on your donations tab along the top, right here where it says posted batches, this button right here. So let's go ahead and open that up. Again, once we come into this window, you're going to note at the top of your screen the date ranges that you're looking at in the upper right hand corner. So it's going to default to the current year. So you're looking at all of your 2016 batches that you have posted. So to correct an individual a batch on this screen, I'm going to scroll up to the top here. Let's say, I think January 27 was a Wednesday. Yeah. So let's say that this batch here was posted to the incorrect date. We posted it to the Wednesday date, and it should have been posted to Sunday of that week. And we need to correct that date. So in order to do that, you would select that line by highlighting it on here, and you'll use your correct batch button at the bottom of your window. That takes you to the correct batch button right here. Then you can click on your down arrow. It's going to open up your calendar grid. Let's say we needed to post that to the 24th, which was the actual Sunday date. You select that on here, and you click your OK button to simply correct it here in donations. If you click on OK and transfer, it will make the correction and then allow you to transfer both of those over into accounting. Again, you can make this correction here and then let your treasurer know that they can handle it over in accounting. That part of the equation isn't part of our webinar here today. So again, correcting the date, you change it on the correct batch window, click OK on here. It's going to take you through a little bit. Your corrections required that the batch be reversed and re-entered. New transaction numbers for correcting and reversing. It shows you all of those transaction numbers on here. Now, you'll see the 24th listed on here. So where it was the 27th, now it's the 24th on here. And just like the browse window where you looked at individual gifts, there's also a checkbox that will allow you to take a look at your reversed donations by clicking on that checkbox in the upper left-hand corner here. And when I do that, you'll see listed in red that original January 27th date on this screen here. The other thing, in rare circumstances, you may need to reverse an entire batch, whether it was posted improperly, if it was, whether it was duplicate entered, whether you accidentally entered a batch 2 times. You can also select a date on your screen here and click on the reverse button, and that will reverse all of the gifts in that particular batch. So removes it from your system entirely. That is going to be a very rare circumstance, but this is the screen where you can go if you ever need to reverse an entire batch date from here. Okay, folks, that is the amount of time I have been given to show you guys how to correct donations here. I've got 3:20 Eastern time, so it's time for us to wrap this up today. So I'd like to thank you all for joining me here today. If you're all set to get on with it, feel free to go ahead and click on the X in the upper right-hand corner of your GoToWebinar control panel, and that will exit you out of the session here today and lets you get on with it here today. So thanks for joining me here today. For folks who do have specific questions, I'm going to go ahead and leave the room open, and I'll see if we have any questions that I can address at this time. Thanks for joining me, everybody.